There are times I find myself sitting in front of my screen, staring blankly at the Team DawnLight channel page, wondering what to do with it all, hoping I'll contrive something I can publish consistently that will appeal to a sizable enough audience that I can feel like I was genuinely entertaining. Then I stumble upon the grand idea to review a game only a year old that might as well be 30 in the vain hope that my ramblings will catch the eyes of the average passerby who might be so gracious as to drop me a feh in the comments section vindicating said rambles. With that ramble, I mean Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag review. I'm sure it's no small surprise from the outset that I'm fairly fond of this game. Not many that try to push naval combat into the fore are capable of pulling it off so well. Here's looking at you. Actually, I can't recall any recent examples. I have to assume most games are either too frightened to approach the drink, or most have simply given up on the watery variety of ships in favor of putting their modelers to work creating the greatest masturbatory fantasy space cruisers to have ever been spawned from a Battlestar Galactica wet dream, but I digress. Yes, I like Black Flag. I like that instead of constantly forcing me to sprint down narrow urban avenues to avoid capture, the game has me sprint down narrow urban avenues to avoid capture and reach my ship. You play the role of Edward Kenway, we're obviously going to show you that one scene where he interacts with the little tyke, father to Hatham Kenway, father to the cardboard cutout that was the protagonist of Assassin's Creed 3, and I use protagonist in very exaggerated quotes, Connor. Edward is the prototypical smarmy high-seas bastard and plays the role to its fullest, almost a little too convincingly, or rather, excessively. There are several key moments in the story where I found myself dumbfounded by the blatant arrogance and, how to put it bluntly, abject stupidity of Kenway in certain moments where it dictated that he man the fuck up and quit acting like a whiny man-child playing pirate at the age of 30-something. I understand that this was likely the developers sticking to their guns. After all, it's unlikely most scalawags manage to suddenly sprout moral compasses to chain to their sextants, but it almost feels like Kenway doesn't have any sort of character arc, at least not until the end, where a brief montage of, hey, you fucked up, welcome to your own personal hell, suddenly reverses his entire outlook on life in the span of about 5 minutes. That and the trite ending, which had me rolling my eyes all over the credits sequence. I constantly found myself counting down until the Celine Dion's Titanic Leftover song started rolling over them, and I don't mean that in the romantic sense, you sick bastards. Let's not bag on old Eddie too hard. After all, at least he has a personality and spoken dialogue that doesn't sound like the mewling of one of my generation, blast that I have to identify with them, over the fact that the Wi-Fi cut out right before they finished posting a selfie to Instagram. And that sentence was physically hard to say. Imagine if Hatham had been the protagonist of AC3 and had a much less posh, West-Saxon, and ethics so wishy-washy they'd look like they'd taken too many rides in the dryer, and bam, you have Kenway version 1.0. Throughout the majority of the game, Kenway spends too much time gleefully leaping about in an assassin's getup, which he yoinked off of a corpse, which also presumably supplied him with all the assassin's agility and knowledge of stealth, subtlety, and how to perform aerial takedowns, as he's doing so flawlessly within the hour. There's a section toward the beginning where you're meant to show off your skills with the hidden blades to fool a bunch of Templars, and I expected they would make the situation more tense, provide me with opportunities to blunder the whole situation and get caught, but nope. You have the masterfully subtle stabby-slashy skills of a lifelong assassin from the word go. I know this is a nitpick, but I found it relevant, so shush. In most instances, while the world-be assassins in these games already work in a line befitting agility and physical prowess, say being Native American, they're usually given, granted off-screen, time to hone their skills with the assassin's weaponry. Kenway has no such time, and we're expected to believe he could always perform precision assassinations, but this game has precursor aliens that created humans, and that one terrible female Asian voice actress from Deus Ex Human Revolution, so I'll stop harping on it. The gist of the plot is the standard fare. Templars want shiny precursor doodad in order to carry out plot for the domination of mankind, beep boop, and you, the assassin, must stop them because freedom is good, beep boop. It's the formula Assassin's Creed has been running into the ground for some 7 years now, and never seems to alter very much, although this time the character has no clear allegiance to the assassins, he's just been scorned by the Templars and wants revenge, which is fair enough, a little bit less robotic, beep boop. However, while Kenway's rationale for wanting to kill Templars is pretty base, the argument as to why the Templars are evil is becoming a fallout shelter under that base. The Templars argue humanity breeds chaos and destruction so long as it has free reign, which is true, see every incidence of war in human history, the majority of which was started and fought over dumb shit. The assassins want everyone to be free, and boy, what great joy freedom brings, chanted the populace of the failed pirate utopia Nassau as bits of their lungs spewed from their mouths with congealed blood, while every venereal disease known to man conducted a three-way circus on their genitals. The Templars may want to control humanity and keep it docile, but honestly, if it means we don't have to worry about them dirty terrorists anymore, he said with the greatest degree of irony, I wouldn't mind staring into the Apple of Eden and offering a blood sample to the Observatory MacGuffin in this game, otherwise known as Precursor Doodad 247-0 beep boop. As expected of AC, you will kill several temporal baddies who are introduced in the beginning and have virtually no character development and are just general mustache twirlers, perhaps to make their sensible solution to humanity sound less appealing somehow, while the new faceless, nameless, legless, and nearly voiceless modern character toddles about the obscenely meta Ubisoft Abstergo entertainment, learning absolutely fuck all about what's going on in modern times, which is kind of a shame considering the massive ending to the last game, ahem. You would think after the end of AC3 some major shit would be going down in modern day, but nope, just more trolling from Juno and a character who is obviously not evil, hint hint, directing you to do illegal shit because it's kinda related to Juno, hint hint. In this way, AC4 is effectively the antithesis of its predecessor, interesting historical setting and characters with a compelling story, but a snorefest in the modern world compared to Desmond using silenced pistols and parkouring his way through Brazilian nightclubs while who gives a shit Keton watches a declaration being assigned. I don't really find this a step up for the franchise. One of the only reasons I bothered to hold on to the franchise is my intrigue for the modern nonsense, which is obscure and mysterious. The historical settings are only there for me to bide my time until Assassin's Creed hits the 1920s gangster era or the Cold War with spies or the modern era. Take a hint, Ubisoft. No one cares about the French Revolution. That's more of a subjective concern, and I've already brought up the story, so how is it? Well, the modern parts are pointless padding, so I won't bother with them, but as I've already said, I find the story of Edward Kenway compelling, if for no other reason than for the interactions with and between the rest of the cast. Your pirate cohorts are incredibly well voiced in Britain. Blackbeard feels genuinely intimidating in most instances. The villains are as foppish as ever, one of which is sporting an accent which wavers between Matador and Bad Napoleon impersonator, and Kenway's interactions with the traitor he meets in the intro, Bonnet, are very believable and comical. Bonnet even has an arc, transitioning from bumbling traitor doofus to bumbling pirate doofus with an upturned eye patch. I found it very endearing. By the end, I was hoping he would come sailing into some pivotal final battle in his own man of war and blow 30 pissant ships away before dying like a true hero, ramming his ship into the enemies, but no such luck had I. Among the cast are Edward Blackbeard Thatch, whom they cleverly drop a reference to his surname being Teach in a quick line of dialogue. James, no totally I'm a dude guys, really my voice actor doesn't give my sudden gender twist away kid, a spineless traitor, a drunk, a man with a voice so gravelly I mistook him for a character from a modern military shooter, and the typical assassin mentor who's incredibly stern and doesn't think you darn children deserve to be running around in his orders robes. So the pieces on our Caribbean-themed chessboard are all in place, and surprisingly, the king seems to be absent from the board most of the time, or he's moving smack dab into the enemy pawns with reckless abandon. For the majority of the 6 years over which the game takes place, Kenway is either spectator or errand boy for the other characters of the story, only making any sort of real headway in small spurts, which probably has something to do with his sudden onset of hero's journey syndrome. I can recount no less than 3 times Kenway is faced with the abyss of said journey and is completely fucked over only to be saved a few months later and to have everything reset to the way it was before, making the entire last sequence pointless. Oh, but it was for character development, you cry, and you'd be right, but you don't have to leave your protagonist stranded or in jail just to have him grow some character traits on his chest every 2 hours. There are better ways. When Kenway isn't blowing up passing schooners and debating the ethics of this whole pillage and plunder lifestyle while robbing them of their crew and all their worldly possessions, he can be found tailing any person of remote interest in a location any newbie assassin could have found. Hint, it's the one with all the guards. And eavesdropping on information he could have found at the local tavern, or pub, whatever. The game mixes in the same combat of the past 7 games, but with 4 pistols this time around, aren't we edgy? And 2 swords! Oh, you rapscallion AC4. Naval combat is fun. I can't say much more about it than every other reviewer on the internet has, so just take it for what. It's fun. It's not complicated, it's not obtuse, it's fun. Exploration is actually somewhat worthwhile this time around, as many of the collectibles and events to be discovered will be useful in purchasing upgrades or finding their plans, and the old hunting system from AC3 returns with some improvements to the crafting, though the menu is still shit and completely forgets mouse wheel scrolling half the time. Optional objectives are generally engaging, and if you've built the baddest ship to ever sail this one tiny portion of a sea, you can try your hands at facing the 4 legendary ships, the ghost ship of which is actually fairly creepy and a welcome challenge. This all culminates into a game which is enjoyable and interesting with sufficient features to somewhat justify its existence. Remember, the 7th in the series, that's more than any Call of Duty game is doing at this point. It just disheartens me that for all the improvements here, this is just going to be a case of 1 step forward, 2 steps back for Assassin's Creed, as undoubtedly, Unity is going to be a French repaint of Assassin's Creed 3. But hey, it's co-op, and that's what the people like nowadays, right? Co-op? That's why there's co-op and other sneaky assassin-y, steely, stealthy games like Dishonored or Thief, the new one. Co-op makes up for the total lack of innovation here. Except it doesn't. Conclusion, though this could have been ended in the last paragraph, but I needed to squeeze in a little bit of hate, Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, is an enjoyable entry to the ever-growing namesake franchise, and a good starting option for newcomers who probably won't care about the modern-day story anyway. I would recommend it. And no, I have no comment on the multiplayer. I'm an antisocial gamer, remember? As if the two weren't already synonymous. Thank you for watching to the end of this review, viewer, and remember that it is your views, your likes, and your subscriptions which keep me going and encourage me to produce bigger and better content every every time, so if you've liked this video, remember of course to leave a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel.